Some good news. Northbound I-25 has reopened. It had been closed earlier at the fairway. Traffic is back up, moving up to speed in that area. And elsewhere around town right now, westbound I-40 between University and Rio Grande, dealing with some slowdowns. Headed west on Paseo between Jefferson and the river. Traffic moving slow there. Also slowdowns westbound on Montano between Rio Grande and Coors, and westbound Alameda right now, 2nd Street to Coors. Traffic moving slow in that area.
All right, AL-BINO coming on again for yet another installment. So, need to make a correction. Yesterday I said it was Berkeley Park, Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania. So the mayor's name is incorrect, but the mayor in Butler, Pennsylvania is a deep blue Democrat. So, correction there. Everything else on what I was reporting is still accurate. And, but yeah, I still believe that it was an inside job. And the more I discover, and as I've been driving, because I'm able to, the way this truck is set up, I'm able to set my phone right beside me and just kind of finger through things as I'm driving. That way I don't have to pick it up or do anything crazy. So yeah, if something comes up, I can hit the share button and scroll over to locals and post it if I think it's relevant, which I've been doing, because I think it is important to share my sources and to share the information with everybody in the community. So, I still believe that the assassination attempt on Trump was an inside job. I still believe that the more information we get, the more we learn that it is in fact an inside job. And pretty girl next to me here. It is in fact an inside job, and there's no getting around it, even if the legacy media will not report it as such. Just got done watching a very interesting PBD podcast on my way back down from Taos, and I'm in Espanola right now, not Los Alamos, Espanola. So I've got to make my way all the way around Santa Fe and back down into Albuquerque, so we got a little time to talk. And it was with the author, or one of the authors of The Fourth Turning. And they were talking about the different generations and different cycles of history, and, you know, what happens in between what they call the turnings, which the fourth turning is, the turnings are marked by major global or internal, or a series of internal conflicts that just kind of seem to happen around each other over the span of about 80 to 120 years. Modern times, it's around 70 to 80 years now, right? Since the founding of this country. And he made a salient point. So Gen Xers, I've got good news for you. Just like the generation that produced Douglas MacArthur and Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower Can you hear me better now? So just like the generation, let me restart since the volume was kind of low, so that way you can hear me. First of all, the correction I want to make is it's Butler, Pennsylvania, not Berkeley Park, Pennsylvania. And the mayor of that town had the wrong name, but the mayor of that town is a deep blue leftist. So I do need to make a correction on that regards my last podcast or my last video. Today I just got finished listening to PPD podcast, Patrick Bet-David. Like to listen to his stuff sometimes. And he spent an hour and 43 minutes with one of the authors of The Fourth Turning. And what the hell? Yep, are we coming up on a traffic jam up here? Anyways, they were talking about how since Plantagenet in England, there's kind of been a major historical cycle shift every 80 to 120 years. And since the American Revolution, it's run around 80 years. And what normally happens during these cycles is the capstone of each one of these cycles is a series, like a global series of internal conflicts, such as a global series of civil wars, or a global conflict of sorts, right? So, for example, the turning that started with the French and Indian War and culminated with the Revolutionary War, but that in turn actually was part of 2 world wars. I'm going to turn around and take a different route here because evidently we are majorly backed up here. What's going on? Anyways, so good news for Generation X, right? And the good news is that I need to turn around, but I can't. What is going on here? Okay, we're gonna go this way. We're gonna go around to Los Alamos. Let's see if I can get around this guy without hitting him with my trailer. So good news for Generation X. We're what's known as a nomad generation, according to this guy's book, right? What's a nomad generation? Nomad generations produce things like, holy crap, I think I'm going to go this way. Nomad generations produce things like the Douglas MacArthurs, the George Washingtons, the George Pattons, the Dwight Eisenhowers, the Omar Bradleys of the world, right? And when it comes to capstone events, the George Washingtons, the Douglas MacArthurs, the Dwight Eisenhowers, so on and so forth, are the generations that lead through the conflict and make the difficult decisions through whatever the conflict is going to be for the generation that is the equivalent to our millennial generation. So, the millennial generation is a very soft, very kind of squishy generation right now. We're starting to get a little harder, but right now, that's kind of how they are, right? Until a crisis happens. At which point, our generation, the nomad generation, Generation X, will be the ones to lead them through because we're middle-aged going into our senior age, and it'll be them and the Zoomers. So the younger millennials and the Zoomers, our generation will be the generation to lead them through this. And once they come out on the other side, they will be another version of the greatest generation. It's been said that the millennials will save us all. And I kind of used to chuckle and laugh at that, but that might be more true than we know. Because if this fourth turning thing is true, then Generation X is what's known as kind of the nomad generation, meaning that we're kind of had to bring ourselves up. We're very individualistic in our thinking. We're very good at being able to, for like example, like a George Patton, we're very good at being able to get results and to think spontaneously and to come up with spontaneous solutions and to make hard decisions very quickly. So in a way, we're impulsive, but when it comes to a point where it's a life or death thing, then we're the right generation for that, because we're able to make those types of decisions rather expediently, let's say, right? We're able to process the situation around us because we had to come up quickly, because we had to come up individually. Latchkey kids, anybody? And because of that, we're able to do like a George Patton. We're able to do like a Douglas MacArthur or a George Washington or a Ulysses Grant, who also was of a nomad generation at the time. We're able to do those types of things. So everybody keeps saying, well, Gen X is going to be passed over. Gen X is going to be this, that, and something else. No. According to this book, The Fourth Turning, and according to some other stuff that I've heard out there along with this, we're not going to be passed over. We're probably going to be the ones who, like the Eisenhowers and the MacArthurs and the Pattons and the Washingtons and the Grants, we're probably going to be the ones to lead the next greatest generation into and through and hopefully to victory the next period of conflict. So we're going to be the ones that everybody runs to. We're going to be the Chester Nimitz. We're going to be the Claire Chennaults. We're going to be the George Pattons. Rather soon, according to this man. So, yeah. When that time comes, it's going to be us. We're going to be the ones leading the fight and making the life or death decisions. And based upon his analysis, we're equipped to do so and have been equipped to do so since our childhood. So that's a good piece of information right there. So that was something interesting I figured I'd share with y'all. But yeah, this deal with Trump, that was an inside job, absolutely, positively, 100% inside. Okay? Of the nature of Jack Kennedy, of the nature of Malcolm X, of the nature of Robert Kennedy Sr., of the nature of a lot of things, okay? So, yeah. That was an inside job. All the way around. And since we're going to talk about another forthcoming, if this is supposedly a cyclical thing, which I tend to believe that it might be. There might be some truth to that. This would be in line with the English Civil War, where you had, oh God, what was his name? It's basically when King Charles was executed in Parliament, the leader of the House of Commons, Prime Minister of Great Britain, took on both roles as the head of Parliament and the head of state until King Charles II rose to power. So it's going to be something along that order, right? That's kind of what it looks like. Following that, it will be the millennials and the older Zoomers, whatever this conflict is going to be, that will return back to some sort of reinitiating a type of system of hierarchy and institution. I know it seems like right now, especially the younger Zoomers and the older portion of Generation Alpha, that everybody's going off the rails. I get it. That's very real. But once Gen X leads the world through this next capstone cycle, then the generations immediately behind us will go back to reinstituting some sort of order. Of course, we'll be leading that as well. We'll be doing that under our mentorship. And isn't it Gen X now, in the later half of our lives, once we decided that the way of the boomer was the way to hell, isn't it the Gen X men who have been of late calling for a return to tradition, a return to what works? And as the system turns itself over, it's going to be very difficult, and there's going to be a lot of conflict. Shit, on Saturday, we almost went to civil war. Almost went to a guerrilla-style civil war. And it's my opinion that that's not completely off the table yet. We may have averted it for a while. And maybe this fourth turning will end on a peaceful note with the Donald Trump presidency, with J.D. Vance, where the norms are reestablished and the foundations are refounded, and it's a more peaceful revolution. One can hope. But according to this man's historical mapping, the nomad generations, such as Generation X, are the ones who really set the pace for that. Are kind of the standard bearers, the leaders, the generals, if you will, who lead the fight. And it's the generations immediately behind them. Once the fight is won, that go and rebuild and reestablish. So maybe there is some good news for the millennials. Maybe there's some excellent news for Generation X. Maybe there's a wonderful future ahead of us, and Generation X will be the ones that lead us into that future. Maybe I should have stayed on the frontage road. What is going on here? Okay, so I'm on the freeway trying to get to Santa Fe so I can get on the loop around Santa Fe. And this is the deal. Traffico. Well, we're going to have a long ride home. So Glenn Beck and Michael Savage have had some interesting discussions. But yeah, this guy, wow. Got cops zooming past, so apparently we've had another accident. It looks more and more like this guy not just had help, but was actually co-opted into doing this. Just the more that comes out, the more it seems that this was definitely a deep state operation with a cutout. And in their minds, Trump turned his head, damn it. Because other than that, there was no way he could have escaped that. That was too perfect, too good. Too many things just magically fell into place for that to be an accident. I don't believe in coincidences. Never have. That's not an accident. That was made to happen. The U.S. government attempted to kill Donald Trump. Pure and simple. Fact. We're not discussing that anymore. So maybe Gen X, who tried to bring in Donald Trump in 2016, and apparently this is going to be Gen X's president again. Maybe that'll be the end of the fourth turning. Maybe as he hands off to a Zennial, J.D. Vance, who is like right on that cusp between Gen X and millennials, maybe that's the bridge we need. But if he wins, and J.D. Vance comes in as vice president, that makes him president pro tempore of the Senate. And we're now being told that the populist wing of the Republican Party will be taking possibly both the House and the Senate, along with the presidency. Which, if that's the case, the power of the boomers is finally fucking broken. Finally broken. I was thinking the other day, right? It's like, wow, I know some boomers. Actually, I was thinking this on the 4th of July when I had to go to a national cemetery. And I was thinking, wow, the boomers, many of the boomers that I know, they're going to be buried up here. And some of them served honorably in Vietnam and then continued to live honorably by their values. Meaning, for example, you know, when the Mexican beer disease showed up and everybody's civil rights were suspended and they didn't buy into it, they didn't go along with it, they stood their ground to the oath that they took when they entered service. If they did serve, right? Or if they did, they still stood their ground on principle, on knowing what was right. And for those boomers, hey, much props, right? But those are very few. Many of the ones that even put on a uniform and went and did what they were supposed to do for the country, but were just awash mentally with the whole following. This is the thing, following the crowd, right? And doing what they're told to do, and their normalcy bias and their naivete. And this is so weird because the boomers branded themselves early on as the counterculture generation. But here's the thing about those assholes, right? If you weren't part of their counterculture, you were canceled. Oh yes, being canceled, that's not a new thing. This is how the boomers did it. Most of the boomers were anti-war, right? So if you happen to be a Vietnam vet who stepped off of a plane in LAX in 1969 after doing your tour in Vietnam, your boomer peers would greet you at the airport and spit on you or hit you, call you a baby killer, and scream at you. So the canceling's not a new thing. That's a boomer invention. But even the ones that came back from Vietnam and then fell in with the crowd, one of them is a close family member who's entitled to be buried in a national cemetery. And he's a very close family member. And when he does, I will not attend. I won't even attend the service. Don't plan on it. Why? That's your family. You served. Because when he went along with all of the other crap afterwards, he destroyed the vow he took. He destroyed his honor. And he destroyed any respect that I have for him. Let me tell you something about Gen X, right? Oops. Let me tell you something about Gen X, right? About a third of Gen X men have put on the uniform. When 9/11 happened, a good number of us were already in service. And then after 9/11 happened, they didn't have to do a draft. Why? Because Gen X men that weren't already in uniform, a lot of them just went and signed up. And hat tip to some of the older millennials too, because they did that as well. The younger millennials, not so much. But the millennials born like before 1988, like 88 and back, you know, into the Gen X area, or into the Gen X era, they also, so hat tip to them, okay? That's my generation. That's my people, okay? And when we took those oaths, we meant it. And most of us have stood by those oaths. So, for example, when the Mexican beer disease came up, guys, I'm gonna have to split this video. I'll come back, okay?